That is intense. What the hell did I just put in my mouth? Hey guys, welcome back. It's a beautiful autumn's day at the moment. The sun is shining and I thought I'd bring you along and show you some of the cool things I've been growing in the garden over summer. We can harvest some fruits and some veggies and taste a few cool things along the way. So let's head over to the raised garden beds to start with and have a look at some cool things happening over there. So at the moment I'm working on transitioning all of these garden beds from all the summer veggies to winter veggies. So yeah, ripping everything out and planting things like carrots and celery, brassicas, onions, coriander, all that type of thing. But this veggie garden here is still very much intact with everything still growing, and it's my favourite one that I grew this year. So at this end we've got a bunch of very hot chili varieties, so things like Carolina Reaper and Trinidad Scorpion and habaneros. But maybe you guys want to see me do like a full tasting of these when they're all ready. Let me know if you want to see that, and maybe I will do that if I'm brave enough. And then next to those we've got these beautiful plants here. These are eggplants, and I've got a few different varieties. This one is long white, as you can see. And I don't even know really why I grew eggplants, because I don't really like them. Maybe I just haven't really found a good way that I like to eat them, so I'm kind of determined to try that. If you guys have any suggestions, if there's any eggplant lovers out there, let me know how you like to eat them. And because I haven't really picked them, some are actually turning yellow, which is meaning that they're probably too mature and gone a bit bitter and not that nice. So maybe I'll save those for seeds. I don't know why, because, you know, am I going to grow them again? Probably. Hopefully I find a way that I do like them. But we will go through and harvest all of the ones that are definitely ready to eat now, and the other ones maybe I'll just let them mature and go to seed, and then we can save some seeds. So this is why it's probably good to pick your eggplants as they ripen and a few at a time, because now I'm going to be eating eggplants all week. But no, I'll probably give some away. And this is all just from one plant, so pretty impressive. Let's pick some of these eggplants too. These are a variety called Dock eggplant. And look at that, pretty happy with that. And there's one more type that I want to harvest. There we go, look how beautiful that is. That color is just absolutely stunning. I'm also growing these Roselle or Rosella in this garden, and I'm not too sure if the season's going to be long enough for them to fully mature, because only just now the little flower buds are starting to emerge. So after they flower, they develop a seed pod which is encased in this red fleshy calyx, and you can harvest that and use it in things like teas and jams and syrups and sauces. But if they don't mature in time, the good thing is you can still eat these young tender leaves, and let me try it and I'll tell you what it's like. I actually really love these. They'd be so good in salads. But if you've ever had lemon sorrel, which has that real lemony, zingy flavour to the leaf, this is quite similar. It's got a real sour flavour, but rather than just being like lemony, it also has notes of maybe berry or plum in there. And in between all these plants, I've sowed some beetroot. So again, I've used the space in two different ways, even if I don't get the main crop from these due to the season maybe not being long enough. The last thing in this garden is this beautiful ashwagandha, and this is a medicinal herb and you use the root of the plant. But more on that in another video. I want to make a whole video about this and all its benefits, because it is a pretty incredible plant. This year I've been growing quite a few varieties of these orange tomatoes, and they've actually got some very interesting health benefits when compared to red tomatoes. So researchers have found that these orange tomatoes are rich in a powerful antioxidant called tetracis-lycopene. Sounds complicated. This is basically a form of lycopene that's really bioavailable, so it's absorbed by our bodies really easily. And lycopene has many health benefits, like supporting heart health and reducing the risk of certain cancers. But what does that have to do with the colour of the tomato? Of course, most tomato varieties we see are red, right? So the red colour is actually a trait that's bred into tomatoes to make them more appealing to consumers. But this is where it gets really interesting. The original tomatoes that were introduced to Europe centuries ago were actually a golden colour like these, and they're believed to have contained that easily absorbed form of lycopene. But as humans worked on breeding these tomatoes to introduce the red colour, what they didn't realise is that that easily absorbed form of lycopene that's in these orange tomatoes is a recessive gene and would be replaced by the dominant red form of lycopene. The thing with this red form of lycopene that's now found in modern red tomatoes is that it can't easily be absorbed into our bloodstream unless it's been subjected to high levels of heat, like cooking. So in a way, the pursuit of aesthetic appeal of making tomatoes red inadvertently led to a reduction in the health benefits associated with eating tomatoes. And it really is quite a significant difference too. The lycopene in these orange tomatoes is up to 8.5 times more bioavailable. So yeah, I just wanted to grow a bunch of these orange tomatoes to take advantage of those health benefits. But if you guys want to learn more about it, I'll leave some links down below. They're delicious too. So I wanted to show you this flower that I grew. This is called a toothache plant. And the reason for that is it was traditionally used to reduce like toothaches and oral discomfort. It's a plant native to Brazil and the flowers are actually very beautiful too. It also goes by the name electric daisy and buzz button, and it supposedly causes like a numbing or tingling effect in your mouth when you eat it. And I'm going to try this, but just be aware that, you know, it may affect people differently. So some people may be more affected by this, but I think it's going to be kind of intense. So let's try it out. Interesting. Just tastes like a green plant. Oh, okay, wait. Here we go. My mouth is suddenly tingling like absolutely crazy. I'm also salivating so much. Oh, that is so weird. It's not good, but it's also a very unusual and novel sensation. Oh, my lips, my tongue, it's getting worse. My tongue feels like it's just got an electrical current pulsing through it. It's also moving to my lips, and it's now also going really salty. Like it wasn't salty at all near the beginning or when the sensation started, but now it's going really salty. Kind of a cool, novel thing to grow, and has some supposed uses in traditional medicine, mainly for like numbing your mouth, but it can be used in tinctures and stuff like that from what I've read, but quite a bizarre thing. Alright, now that I've recovered from that, this is my Chilean guava plant. I've actually got quite a few of them and they're absolutely loaded this year with these beautiful red berries. But I've got more information about this plant up in that video there. So I've got to go through and harvest a heap of these. It does take quite a while because they're pretty small and they're everywhere. But these are incredibly delicious berries and very, very prolific. So a good productive little shrub that you can fit in a container or just in a small spot in your garden. And they give you just so many of these really delicious berries. So this plant here is a Pepino melon, and I actually picked this huge fruit off this plant like maybe a month or so ago, but it fell off while it was still completely sort of green and not ripe. But I left it out in the sun and it's developed all of the purple stripes, and now it's also started to get a little bit more color on it, and it's going just slightly soft. But I also saw that down here there's another one that is also just as big, and these usually don't get this big. Like, look at this thing, it's absolutely huge. And it's even bigger than this one, which I thought was the largest one I ever grew. So I'm not sure why these are getting so big, but in previous years they get maybe like half the size of this one here. So these are very, very decent. Oh my gosh, look at that color. That looks so good. Looks very nicely ripe. Man, what a beautiful melon. Let me taste it. There we go, stunning. Oh my god, it's so juicy. That is really, really good. Another great little shrubby plant to grow in a semi-shaded area to get some of these beautiful melons. And this plant will grow for multiple years, so you can keep harvesting off them, you know, around this time of year, around autumn, and you should get a bunch of these beautiful fruits from them. Also, I just saw this little fruit on the ground and it's from the trees above me, so let's see what's growing up there, because this is the first of them that is ripe. So you can see how loaded these trees are with fruits. These are Tamarillos or tree tomatoes. So you can see this is the one that fell off that's ripe. It's a variety called Bold Gold, and they just turn orange when they're ripe, unlike the other varieties that are red. And this is supposed to be quite a sweet variety. So I'm very excited to taste this. That was tangier than I expected, but very flavorful and very tasty. All the other plants along here are absolutely covered in Tamarillos too, and they are starting to ripen up too. And if you guys want, I can bring you along again when these are all ripening up and we can taste them and talk a little bit more about these awesome trees. Some of my favorite types of fruit are ripe at the moment. It is these figs. I've got quite a few fig varieties, but two of them are ripening up at the moment, so I'm going to go through and pick a bunch of these. But these are actually some of my favorite. I actually grew this from a cutting, so I'm not entirely sure of the variety, but check this out. Look at that color. It is bright, sort of reddish inside. This one could have been even slightly more ripe, but it still is all good. Yum, so sweet. And these ones that have the red inside kind of have a slight berry taste to them, but just a really nice figgy sweetness. I don't really know how else to describe it. This one here is called Panache fig, and you can see how beautiful the figs are with their stripy green and yellow skin. So these ones are not ripe yet, and what I've found is that if you live in an area that's kind of marginal for figs and is a little bit colder, then these might not be the best variety, because I've noticed that they do seem to flush their leaves out quite early in the spring, earlier than the other varieties. And so if you get a late spring frost, it can end up knocking the plant back a bit. This variety is called brown turkey. It's a pretty common fig variety. But one thing that you want to look out for, especially if you've had some rain happening, what you'll notice is if you have a fig that has some splitting in the skin, just a very slight split, those are the figs that are going to be the sweetest ones to eat. So if I pick that and I'll show you the inside, this one, you know, only has a slight split. Sometimes you'll get splits kind of all around them, and those are like extremely juicy and sweet, but that's the inside of that one. So mostly kind of white with a bit of pinkness through there as well. And yeah, really, really tasty figs, kind of honey flavored almost. Very, very juicy. Sometimes the birds do get them, like this one here, so either I leave them on there for the birds, so hopefully they don't get the other ones and they just keep eating the same fig, or I'll pull it off and feed it to my chickens, and they absolutely love them. And one thing I love so much about figs is that they're really easy to grow them from cuttings, so you don't need to spend all this money like buying all these different fig trees. If you know anyone that has some fig trees, you can just ask for a cutting, grow your own tree. Like this was grown from a cutting. Most of my fig trees actually were just grown from cuttings, and they do immensely well just like that. So we got a full basket of figs, very stoked about that, and then some damaged and chewed ones as a bonus for the chickens. Hey chickies, just one each please. So while we're in and around the chickens area, one thing that's worked pretty well this year has just been poking some different seeds around, like these bottle gourds and some tromboncinos as well, around the chickens area where they've previously scratched up and fertilized and all that sort of thing. So the soil is very loose and rich, and it's just meant that these plants have kind of just grown and taken over everything. They've grown over all of the chicken fencing. They've produced a lot of gourds and tromboncinos. The tromboncinos are mostly ready to pick now, so we'll go through and pick a bunch of them. And as for these bottle gourds, these are going to just stay on here to fully dry out and become hollow, like how I've done on previous videos, so that I can make some different things from these pretty awesome gourds. With tromboncinos, I've got a full video guide about how to grow them if you want to check it out. But you can eat them when they're green and immature during the summer. But because they're much like zucchini like that, I'd prefer just to use my zucchinis, and I just let the tromboncinos mature. And that way I can store them through the winter time and use them all winter, just kind of like a zucchini or a bit like a butternut squash almost. And they store really, really well. Oh my gosh, look at this one. That's a cool one. Very twisty. I've got about 4 different recipes on my tromboncino video, so if you want to see what you can do with these, feel free to check that out. But yeah, all these tromboncinos just from sticking a couple of seeds in the ground, watering it every now and then, and I really think it's done so well because of the chickens fertilizing the ground so much before I put these in, so thanks for that, chickens. And I've done a similar thing just around a few trees that I have growing, where I've stuck a couple of seeds in the ground, and just from doing that I've ended up with some butternut squash. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how these ones have done too, considering it was such a low effort thing to just stick a few seeds in the ground here and there. Look how tiny these little ones are. Kind of cool though. There we go. Bunch of butternuts. There's also these cool varieties of chilies that I've got growing over here as well, so they've got a little bit longer to ripen up here. So back in spring I decided to sow some seeds of Blacktail mountain watermelons, which I haven't tried before. This is an heirloom variety that's especially good for climates with shorter growing seasons and cooler temperatures. I always quite enjoy growing watermelons. It's always cool to see the flowers forming and then the fruits growing from something so small and just getting larger and larger over the summer. So this one here is ripe and you can hear sounds nice and hollow, and this tendril at the base is dried up. Plus if we flip it over, we've got this nice yellowy golden sort of colour. So we are good to pick it. It might even just, there we go, came off pretty easily on its own, so that's another indication of ripeness. Alright, here we go, let's chop it open and see what it's like. Ooh, looks good. It's a little bit pinker than I thought. It looks pretty tasty, so we'll have to find out if it tastes good. All right, here goes. It's very sweet. It is a very tasty melon. It's really crispy and yeah, almost like sugary sweet, way sweeter than what you would get at the supermarket. And this is supposed to be a melon that is quite good for beginners because it's not one that gets massive and doesn't have a super long growing season as well. I think around 75 days to maturity. So yeah, very, very stoked with this, and I think I'll be growing this one again. I had some plans last winter to make a bit more of a trellis for my grapevine to grow up higher, but I never got around to it, and it's just got this low fence here. So it actually ended up growing all the way over and up some trees and around over the hedge around the back. But it actually worked out pretty well, and I got a lot of grapes off this. They're finished now, but I've got some footage of when they were ready. The variety is called Niagara, and they grow bunches of these sort of greenish gold grapes, which are really sweet and juicy, but with also a bit of a tangy, sharp flavor. So really, really nice. And there was just so many bunches of grapes on this grapevine. So although it's just gone a bit wild, I actually kind of like it. It's kind of cool just letting it do its thing. One thing I did with a bunch of the grapes, which if you haven't tried it, I reckon you should, is to freeze them. So here's some of the frozen grapes here, and let's try it. It's so good, and you can chew them up pretty easily, so it kind of is like a sorbet almost. And yeah, really tasty, a great little snack. One thing that's been quite cool to see this year is a lot of my seed grown peach trees have been fruiting. So most of them have come to the end now. This one is a sanguine peach, or also called a black boy peach. They create these ones here. And I'll show you the inside of this in just a minute because it's really beautiful. And then I've had a bunch of these type of peaches too. These came from trees that I grew from Golden Queen seeds. I also have this other peach tree variety that was grown from a seed, and they have like a reddish purple leaf on them. So it's a really cool looking tree, and that also produced quite a lot of peaches this year. Unfortunately, I don't have any left to show you, but they look kind of similar to this one, but with more of an orangey colored flesh on the inside. So there we go, there's the inside. Really nice looking peaches, especially this one here. Like, that is such an amazing color. That has like the most peachy flavor you can imagine, and it's got a good tang to it as well. That one is much more like sugary sweet. Very nice peach. So I've ended up with this awesome harvest here, which I'm so stoked with. And if you guys liked this type of video of just going around and seeing what's happening in the garden, then let me know, because I can make some more videos like this in the future. And if you're thinking to yourself like, man, I really wish I had the space to grow some really cool fruits, well, check out this video over here, because I show you 4 cool fruits that you can grow in containers or small spaces. So yeah, I hope that helps you out. But thanks so much for watching today. Hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.